Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session on Consecration Sunday. I am Bert Brooks, and to tell you a little bit about me in 30 seconds or less, I am the Director of Stewardship and Outreach for the United Methodist Credit Union, and we're located in the Richmond, Virginia area, and we have members in the North Carolina Conference, the Western North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and Baltimore, Washington conferences. So that's probably how you got an email to find out about this session today. I really do exclusively stewardship education for the credit union as a public service, and they are very good at allowing me to have these classes and to help our churches grow their stewardship ministry. So that's kind of my short bio. We had a number of folks register for this, and I think it's interesting to see who's interested right now. So 34% of our registrants were clergy, 14% church staff, and 52% laity. So laity, you win the prize today on the stewardship registration. So good for you. It needs to be a partnership among all three groups. Well, if you have done Consecration Sunday before, you know a little bit about it. I haven't thought much about Consecration Sunday until last fall when I got 2 invitations to be the guest leader. And I thought to myself, I didn't realize churches were still using it at this point, but obviously churches are. So I thought I would restudy it. It's a program I used a long time ago, actually, and just kind of relaunch it. My initial thought was that we have so many stewardship programs that come out by leading pastors across our denomination. It looks like it's one a year, and they have videos and they have resources and they have what you need to conduct a campaign. But Consecration Sunday does not go away, and I'm glad of that. It's a program that actually appeared in 1996. So I don't know, I was around in 1996 when it first started, and then it was reprinted in 2007 under the label New Consecration Sunday. So if you were to go to Amazon or Cokesbury and order that, the title of the book would be New Consecration Sunday. You would see it right across the top. Then I see on Amazon and Cokesbury that a third printing of this is coming out in May, and it's reverting back to the term Consecration Sunday. So I haven't seen that, but the little bit I know about it, it updates the statistics in it, maybe some of the language. And this is the big thing I noticed, that in 96, you got the accompanying cassette tapes. In 07, you got the accompanying CDs. And in 2022, you're going to get the download login information. So other than that, I have not seen the book yet, but I'm assuming that the program is still pretty much the same. So that's kind of where we are. So if you're going to move forward with this after today, I think I would wait until May before I ordered the books and get the newest version. However, if somewhere in your church library you've still got these, the program is as good as ever, whether you get it out of this version or a newer version. Having said that, how many of you have done a Consecration Sunday program before, either as a pastor or led it as a layperson, or were in the pews when the church did a Consecration Sunday? Anybody? Could you just kind of wave at me? So we've got a couple of people. Now here's this Consecration Sunday is really a program rather than a brand. Now, many churches will call Commitment Sunday Consecration Sunday, but they haven't done the program called Consecration Sunday. So it's a kind of a generic word in our stewardship vocabulary now. But after today, you will know that it is a plan, an organized plan, and it's very detailed, and it requires literally a project manager. I don't want to scare anybody with that, but somebody has got to pretty much on the team read the book. And if you want to scare folks away, just give them this book right here. You really got to want to move forward if you don't want to read the book. Now, the book is simple. That's why it's been around. It just looks like it's got a lot of pages in it, but it's a detailed, step-by-step, don't cut any corners plan for an annual stewardship campaign that will move the church further than perhaps it has moved in a long time, or that it ever intended to move. I'm just going to read you a couple of things in the intro of this book, and then I'm going to give you my take on it. The book starts by saying, on the average, new Consecration Sunday increases a church's financial contributions 15 to 30% a year. I'll go for that. You need that. We need 15 to 30%. Now, again, these are statistics from not only pre-pandemic, but 2007. So that's why I want to see what this May version does with these statistics. And I did this as a pastor years ago, and I can affirm that there was a notable increase in the annual giving after doing that program. It says also people who write their financial commitments on paper give on average twice as much as people who do not write their intentions on paper. So this program culminates with an actual commitment card that people would seal and present on that Consecration Sunday. So that's really the culmination of everything you do, is for people to write that down. Some churches, that's the way they do it anyway. Other churches have never done it or haven't done it in a long time. But either way, that's part of this program. Herb Miller goes on to say, rather than requesting financial contributions to pay the bills or support the budget, New Consecration Sunday asks people to grow spiritually by giving a percentage of their income to the Lord's work through their congregation. And then I'm just going to read a couple more sentences, and I'm not going to read more from the book. People in percentage giving congregations contribute an average of 4.6% of their income to their church. In other words, national research indicates that people whose churches repeatedly raise the question, what percentage of your income is God calling you to give, contribute 3 times more dollars per year than people whose churches only take offerings. Well, you know, that sounds too good to be true in 2022. But it's a time-tested program that was tested, that has been used in hundreds, thousands of United Methodist churches and other mainline denominations. So again, I'm looking forward to the 2022 statistics on this. So that's the foundation of it. It is creating not a dependency on the church budget, but a need to grow spiritually by percentage giving of one's income to the church. Been in this work and seen how you can really shoot yourself in the foot when you're doing a good thing. So let's say stewardship time comes up and the pastor or the stewardship chair or whoever is making the announcements say, our goal is for you to increase your giving by 1%. Okay, the thing has come off the rails already. It's not going to go anywhere. Do you know why? it's come off the rails already? Because people hear 1% in relation to last year's giving. So if I gave $100 last year and you said to increase it by 1%, how many dollars will I increase my gift for this year? $1. All right, you see, that's what I heard. I'm sitting in the pew and that's what I heard. Increase giving by 1%. And that's what we hear a lot. That's why we don't see, any real negligible results. So this program is dependent on wording like this. Determine this year's percentage of giving in relation to your income. Percentage of giving in relation to your income, and then increase your percentage of giving in your relation to your income by 1%. You see, there's a very big difference there, because now I say, let's say I'm a person that makes $100,000 a year over here, and I give $100. Well, that's so negligible. 1% of 100,000 is 1,000, right? Or 1% is 1,000. Versus when you say it the other way, you get $1. So we're asking for 1,000, but they heard $1, you see. So just make sure that when you use this program, you're very clear about how I'm to process the numbers. Now, the nice thing about this program, that in the book, it's got charts for all of this on how to grow. You can see that you've seen these before, these step-up charts. And you probably can't see it here, but it's in the book. And it'll just say if your income is so much, then 1% is this, and 2% is that, 10% is that. These numbers are very low. So again, in 2022 version, I hope they up these numbers, at least these weekly income numbers, to reflect a more realistic salary base or wage base. So it's percentage in relation to income, not in relation to the church budget, not in relation to what you gave last year, not in relation to, the economy, not in relation to the price of gas, but in relation to your income. And so ultimately, in the most ideal situation, you're working people up to the tithe, a true 10% of income over the course of time. And that may take a while, but at least you have launched it in a direction that might get there, versus launching it in a direction that will never get there. Never. It'll just crash and burn every year. So that's really the foundation of this program, is to create percentage givers, to create people on their way to the tithe. If you have a question, it doesn't look like it's that many of us, I'll be glad to stop. But those are the theories behind the program. No one asks anyone for money. That's the nice thing about it. People don't like to ask anybody else for money. I don't, you don't, and this program does not require asking of money. I like this statement a lot. It is about bringing one's gifts to the altar rather than having to chase down the gifts. That's a pretty good thing, isn't it? That puts the responsibility for the gift on the giver, not the responsibility of the gift on the receiver. And it's nothing more frustrating than to have to chase down pledge cards and have to chase down people to make reservations for events. This doesn't require that. This is set up front. This is the way it works. And people will be bringing their commitments to Consecration Sunday. This is also not about meeting the budget. It's about one's need to give. The only information I need to grow in this program is what I currently give and what is my income. I don't need to know anything about the church, really. This is all I need to know. Now, we'll talk about the budget later, but that's it. That's all Consecration Sunday information necessary for this program. As a matter of fact, and I may be getting ahead of myself, you don't mention the budget at all in no way, shape, or form, nor does that budget get put out there in the congregation before Consecration Sunday. Here's the frightening part, but once you get past it one time, you don't put the budget together until you've added up all the cards. You see, you're going to add up all the cards, whatever that says at the bottom. That then is your budget figure upon which everything else then becomes a subset of that budget. There are a lot of nuances in that I would be glad to talk to you about. What about, lose cash? What about this? What about that? Well, that's secondary to the program. That may influence a budget, but it doesn't influence Consecration Sunday. There we go. Again, it's all about one's need to give rather than the church's need to receive. Here's how we can, I was thinking, how can we mess Consecration Sunday up completely? How can we just completely negate it? It would be something like this. Folks, because the budget has been so bad and giving has been so poor, we're going to try Consecration Sunday. You see, what you've just done is you've matched Consecration Sunday to the budget. I mean, done the exact thing that the program says not to do. Do you see how easy it would be to do that? To see Consecration Sunday as a desperation measure rather than a spiritual growth opportunity. And maybe that's worth quoting. Consecration Sunday is not a desperation measure. It is an opportunity for spiritual growth. And so whoever the voice of this would be would make sure that they maintain that consistency throughout the program. Well, there's a luncheon, a catered luncheon that brings everybody together on Consecration Sunday. It's not a potluck. It's not a men's cookout. It's not a women's thing. It is, nobody brings anything except their commitment cards. This turns a lot of churches off because we say, we can't afford this. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'll address that later, but that is key to this. And throughout this book, it says, do not cut corners. Do not make up other ways to do it. Follow everything to the T. Okay, and that's the way I'm presenting it to you. Just like Herb Miller wrote it, I'm presenting it to you to the T. And as part of that, there are commitment cards and there's a catered luncheon. Okay, so those are two big things that churches sometimes have pushback on and might say, well, we're not going to do the catered luncheon. We're not going to do the cards. Again, the results will probably be what you had last year before you went through all the effort of doing the Consecration Sunday. Here's the way we get started with this. First, we've got to get support and buy-in from our council. Whoever the leadership council is has got to wholeheartedly say, this is what we want to do. If not, it's just not going to be there. You have to get support and buy-in from the pastor. The pastor is key, or a key to this. Pastors can't be somewhere else when this is going on. And I'm speaking from a pastor. I'm a pastor. You cannot just say, well, they'll get the money. I need to write the Lenten devotional over here while they're getting the money over there. No, this is a team effort. This is a leadership effort, and the pastor is got to be on board and also participate in it. Support and buy-in from church council. The reason I'm having this early in this season is because now, if you're going to do this, you have the rest of the year to get it right. I wouldn't present this seminar in October because it wouldn't be enough time. But now, if you want to do it, you have time to ask the right questions. The second thing that I think is useful is a budget. A budget. It doesn't make sense that stewardship team has to beg to get its resources. What does that budget cover? Covers the books, which are not that expensive. Would cover the catered meal or meals. And there might be a leadership meal when I get down to it. And it would cover a stipend for the guest leader, which I haven't talked about. I think, depending on the size of your church, a budget of $1,000, $1,500 would mean that the team does not have to beg from anybody. They would have the resources to work with. And again, if the numbers are right and you increase your giving by 30%, then $1,000, $1,500 is just a drop. It's a drop in the hat. It's the best money the church will have ever spent. So let's just say, let's be creative about this in just a minute. If you say the catered luncheon, the word catered always scares people. You're thinking $20 a plate, but catered means that somebody other than church members work the kitchen. And they can put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a bag of chips and a bottle of water in this luncheon, as far as I'm concerned. And as long as you all don't have to do it, it still fits under the definition of catered. You see what I'm saying? It's not about the lunch. The lunch is about getting people to church for the consecration time, and then having this fellowship luncheon right after church. So you don't have to worry about this being some high-end meal. As a matter of fact, I was at one in my, quote, main job is I'm an independent capital campaign consultant. That's my main job, is what I do. I was at a leadership luncheon just this past Sunday. They had about 50 church leaders, and they had a sub, a fruit cup, a potato salad cup, a cookie, and a bottle of water, and everybody was just as happy as they could be. They came for the purpose of the luncheon, not for the substance of the luncheon. So that's part of it. So you get a budget. Hopefully your church can give you a budget. Now, if they say, we're not paying for this luncheon, then maybe a member will fund it privately. That's the way I've seen it done. That someone will say, we're not going to wring our hands over $500. I'm going to pay for the luncheon. We're not going to wring our hands over the cost of these books. I'm going to pay for it. So I have seen that more often than not, because teams don't have any money to work with. So there are ways to make this happen. Same with the honorarium for the guest leader that I'm going to speak of. Maybe somebody wants to foot it. I've even heard of churches where someone says, I'm so excited about this. We're finally doing something different for a change. I am going to fund the budget for the entire effort. I'm going to do it for the entire effort. And that's happened. So in other words, what I'm saying is, if there's a will, there's a way. And it doesn't have to be a line item in this year's budget. We can make this happen, and we've got time to make it happen. Okay, so basically, I'm going to give you the steps really quick. I started with support and buy-in from church council and pastor. 1, budget funds. Number 2, create the team. And the team is the guest leader who is not a member of your congregation. We'll talk more about that. Not a member of your congregation at all. The pastor, the Consecration Sunday chair, and 6 additional team members. So I think it's probably 9 to 10 people. And these are not people who are elected for 3-year terms. They are elected as the Consecration Sunday team. And when the work is done, thank them and don't make them serve in the next, for the next 10 years, because these are just kind of projects that need full attention and not distractions from the other things that your folks are involved in. Order the books. You can go to Cokesbury. You're going to need about 10 books and some resources. The commitment cards are pre-printed. And then there is a training guide for your guest leader. The guest leader is also essential to the life of this program, and therefore budget an honorarium for the guest leader. But I'll tell you how it could work otherwise. The guest leader is perhaps a pastor of a church in your district or someone close by, or a retired pastor that is articulate, interested. And this person has to make 3 trips to your church, 3 trips. Okay, so the first trip is about 6 weeks in advance to meet the committee and train the committee. This is why you have the out-of-town consultant. There's just some symbolism in that by having this guest. Second trip is a week before for a small dinner with the leadership, your council, your trustees, whoever. That dinner is also catered, but it's very small, just depending on your leadership list. And then the third trip is on Consecration Sunday, where that individual preaches and leads the liturgy of the consecration of the commitment cards. 3 times. So where do you find somebody like that? Well, I think this is something that maybe I'll offer to districts. Not that I can do it, I can't do it. But if your pastor and a pastor next door would say, let's do this program this year, and you be our guest leader, and I'll be your guest leader, and it would work real nice. You just can't have Consecration Sunday on the same Sunday. That's one way to do it. Or if there are any pastors on this call, maybe you could get 3 or 4 pastors and you all could create a Consecration Sunday bench, so to speak, where people know that you're available to kind of tag off. I'll do your church if you do mine, kind of thing. Or if you have a number of retired pastors in your area, then they might be interested in doing it also. I've seen it both ways. But I do think an honorarium, if there's not a swap, is very much in order. And so I think I would budget maybe $300 or $400 or $500, depending on how far they had to come for that honorarium. So the guest leader is absolutely essential to the program and does make the difference. As you can see, every one of these points make the difference. Then you secure the calendar. You got to secure the calendar so you're not competing with other things in the life of the church. You're not competing with the Super Bowl. You're not competing with, people's annual summer events, whatever. You're not competing. You want it to be a time where your church is fully alive, fully awake, and fully engaged. And that could be spring or fall, depending on how you like to do this, but there's no particular time. So you set that calendar for the Consecration Sunday. You don't compete with the Sundays, the 3 or 4 or 5 Sundays in the book with other things. You don't schedule Youth Sunday right in the middle of consecration season. Don't schedule, whatever, UMW Sunday right in the middle. And now is a good time to get that calendar secured for the Consecration Sunday. And then you begin the program. And it's all in the book. The book is meant to write in. So each team member is supposed to write their stuff in the book. There's places for it because this is a working document. It's not something, that you should be afraid to write in. So you go according to it. Exactly. So this summer, the team, if you had the team this summer, you'd all read this together and know exactly where you're going. Now, here's what I want to tell you. It's not hard. As a matter of fact, I understand why it's so effective. If you can get over the first hurdle of we've got to read a book, we've got to have a budget, we've got to have a consecration Sunday, we've got to have a guest leader. If you can get over that, it's all done, really. You just follow it. So I'm going to stop and let you take your breath a minute and ask me any questions that you might have about any of the material I just presented. And you're muted, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hey, Bert, this is Jerry Jones, still on the road. But
Hey, Gary.
for the honorarium, did you say $300 to $500 or $3,000 to $5,000? Kind of noisy.
3 to 5, 3 to 500. 3 to 500. Now, if your church is going to do 3 to 5,000, I'm in. You go ahead and invite me, and I'll take care of it. But no, I'm thinking if they're close by, $100 per trip. If they've got a little bit of travel, maybe a little more than that, $150 per trip. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Boy, that could be a costly error in the process, couldn't it? But yeah, 500, I think, would be your max budget for the honorarium. Good question, though. Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
So,
Nick, yeah.
You mentioned that Cokesbury had the books.
Yes.
And did I also hear you say that they have pledge cards?
Yes, you've got it. That's part of it. You get the pledge cards too with the program.
book. Is that right?
It's a separate, yeah, it's a separate order, but it's on the same web page, the whole program.
Okay.
Yeah. And they come in packs of 100. So I'm thinking that in this new version, they may be downloadable and you can print your own. So I don't know yet, but you can go and see what they look like. And they're pretty good. I looked at them again this morning just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. But yes, Cokesbury has them, and I guess Amazon has them. I find I'm buying a lot of church stuff off of Amazon that I need for my work. So don't hesitate to look at them also. Nick, did that answer your question?
So you said program. So that involves the books, the pledge cards, and was there anything else with the
leader's guide?
Leader's guide.
Leader's
Okay.
guide.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are 3 tangible items. Leader's guide. This is called team member manual. I don't know if you can see that right there.
Yeah.
Team member, and then there was a leader's guide, and then there are the pledge cards.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Bill, I see you've got your hand.
When we first did your program, it was kind of pre-pandemic and there were 65, 75 people each and every Sunday.
Mhm.
Ours is an aging congregation. Now if on a good Sunday, there's 25.
Yeah.
How do we scale this down? Because you want it to be a program and lots of people. When I say we have 25, 12 of those are in the crier. So that doesn't leave a lot of people. Or how do you adapt it for the changing times of today? Because we still have lots of faithful members who tithe, but haven't been in the church since the pandemic shut us down.
Yeah, yeah. I think you probably would want 40 to 50 at this luncheon just to give it some size, some energy. I think you're so close, you may want to consider doing it, and maybe this luncheon will get people back into worship again. I just don't know. We're all having the same phenomenon that you're having at your church, that a lot of people have not come back, and I don't know whether they are coming back. So that's an excellent question. I think you really need to just ask, do we have a critical mass that this program would not feel overwhelming to? Because we don't want to overwhelm people. And it might not be this year for you. You might have to give this another year. And I think Herb Miller does have a program. Now, Herb Miller is deceased, even though his name is still on all of this material. He's deceased, but I think in his day, he had some small membership church. I think it's Grow One, I believe. If you look up Grow One and see if that might also be something you could do as an interim this year until you see what the attendance is going to do. Good, excellent question. Yeah, excellent question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions before I move to the next section? Okay, these are good. Okay. How to sabotage Consecration Sunday? I've already given you a couple of ways to do it. First of all, starting too late in the year. If you haven't decided by summer, it's probably going to be too late. And so you really do need that time to get your team together, to get your guest leader secured. So don't start too late in the year, because you'll have to cut corners at that point, and that's exactly what the program doesn't want you to do, is to cut corners. The second way is lack of leadership support. If your council doesn't support it, I just go ahead and scrap it right then and there, because they are essential to the success of this program. So you really do need wholehearted leadership support. The third is a lack of a funding plan. And I've already mentioned that. You've got to put up some money to make this work, whether you build it into your budget or whether you seek it from an individual or two who might fund the program. And we're not talking big money, as we've already heard, $1,000, $1,500. There's somebody in your congregation, or maybe even you, who would like to see this happen, and you can quietly fund this program anonymously and quietly. Shortcuts, saying we are going to have a potluck and not a catered meal. Then you've got to see, the problem is you've got everybody focusing on the food at that point and not coming. See, the reservations are critical, and there's a good chance I don't see the need to make a reservation if I'm bringing my own food. So the reservation part of this is absolutely critical to get people to come and not be distracted by the kitchen or the fellowship hall or the folding tables, all of that. And I'll tell you, once you get used to that, church will not go back to potluck. I mean, people, I think, I don't know, in my eyes, we don't cook that much. And so if you're going to feed me, I'm going to probably come if I don't have to bring anything. So that's just helps get people out. Apologizing. Don't apologize for this program. That's one of the things I train pastors. I say, don't apologize. Don't let your people think that this is a painful process and you're sorry you have to go through it, but this is just the way it is. We don't want any of that. this is a spiritual growth opportunity. I mean, we wouldn't say that about prayer. I'm sorry, I'm asking you to pray. I know it's a painful opportunity, but we just have to do it if we're going to get anybody well around here. No, this is part of our spiritual growth. And so make sure you don't apologize. Stay positive, upbeat. This is going to move us into the future. Lack of the outside leader, just saying, oh, we've got people here who can do it. Our pastor can do it. Well, that kind of short circuits it also. That'll sabotage the process. And here's a big one. I don't like to fill out a pledge card. We don't fill out pledge cards. This is between God and myself. Well, as the book says, no, it's between you and God and the financial secretary. There are other people who know what you give. So it's not made public. I see Gary like that. But there's a good chance that somebody who has to manage the books of the church knows what God knows. But as we said earlier, people who will fill out a card tend to be more generous givers. And these are confidential cards. They're not printed in the weekly e-news, and they're not posted on the bulletin board outside fellowship hall. Really, when it comes down to it, it is between the person, God, and the church administrator, the financial secretary. Pastor may have access to that information. So filling out the card, if you're not going to do that, you may as well not even do the whole program, because it culminates in that. And then the lack of clergy leadership. You cannot do this without full buy-in of your pastor. Has to be. If your pastor starts backpedaling, then just stop the program right there. It's not going to go anywhere. So there are many, many ways to make sure that program works. There are many ways to make sure the program is sabotaged. I am a proponent of doing it exactly like Herb Miller says do it. Get the book, follow it to the T, and I think you're going to see a success that you haven't seen in a long time. So that really is the program, and it's got announcements, it's got preaching resources, it's got how to make the reservations, it's got questions and answers to the most common concerns. So it's almost teaches you to overcome objections. Like here's one on page 22. Are you sure the catered meal is necessary? It's got a whole paragraph on why it's necessary. So if you somehow understand the logic of all of this in advance before people start asking you questions, then you have got good, rational answers to why we are following the program just the way we are. Yes, I didn't need a long time. That's the program in a nutshell. Let's go back to some questions again.
Pastor
Hey, Herb,
Brooks, this is Alma Chow.
Let me see. Let's go to Alma first. Go ahead, Alma.
Sir. Okay, on the sabotage of the Consecration Sunday, what was the first one item that you said? I didn't get that. You gave us a list
sabotage
of reasons why, the Consecration Sunday. What's the first one?
Starting too late in the year.
Okay.
Is that the one? Waiting too late to get things off the ground.
And what is the name of the book that you're speaking of?
It's called Herb Miller's New Consecration Sunday. Alma, can you see that where I'm holding it?
It's barely, but okay. It says New Consecration. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if you were on the call. This is going to be revised in May of this year. So a new version of this is coming out in May of this year.
Okay, thank you.
And let's
Yeah, I have a-
see.
Wait, don't let the- go and Derek. I'll come back.
Okay, yeah, you're breaking up just a tad, but I'll come back to you. Gary Fuss?
Yes, what would be your ideal calendar? September, October time frame?
Yeah, I tend to be a fall stewardship campaign person. And a lot of times I will suggest that this consecration meal be on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, because there's some leverage there. It is a period of Thanksgiving for the nation, and why not a period of Thanksgiving for the church? So I have found that timing tends to multiply itself, but you don't have to do it that way. Sometime in the fall, you want to do any type of initiative like this during the high attendance season, which is usually about October to the end of the year. People are slower and slower coming back to church if they're going to come back at all. But usually, if they are going to come back, they probably by October, end of the year. So that's a good period too. Winter tends to be a pretty good period, the season right after the first of the year. And Lent tends to be a good season. And a couple of weeks after Easter to Pentecost Sunday tends to be a good season. So you might have 4 windows of opportunity that I think are better than others, would be my suggestion. Does that answer your question, Gary? Yeah. Summertime, unless you're in a resort community and your attendance goes up during the summer, I wouldn't suggest a summer program. Now, people tell me that summer is when our older folks actually want to come to church. Maybe so. Then in that case, you just take it on a case-by-case basis as to what your best attendance and best, best season is. Yeah. Excellent questions. I'm ready to take 2 or 3 more questions. Yeah. Who else?
Hey, Bert, Gary Jones here.
Yeah. Hey,
just
Gary.
Point of clarification, and I guess it's in the book, but the purpose of the catered lunch, is that when people would provide their pledge cards, or is that, again, a kickoff for the whole process?
Here's the way it works in detail. The pledge cards are given out at the beginning of worship on Consecration Sunday with an envelope to seal. So in the context of that worship, you should already know what you're going to do. I mean, people shouldn't be caught by surprise that they were given this card and had no time to think about it, because it's been 6 weeks. So they're given in the context of worship, and you fill it out, you seal it, and you turn it in during that special time in worship. All right, that worship concludes and everybody then exits to the meal, whether it's in the fellowship hall, whether it's in a restaurant, whether, wherever you decided to do it. In the context of that meal, the only announcement is the amount pledged. So your financial secretary or your church administrator needs to be on site immediately at the conclusion of that service so that he or she can add up the total pledges. And those are announced at the luncheon. And that's really the only agenda item at the luncheon. Gary,
Okay,
does that
thank
answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, sure does. I'm just trying to see, the sequence of things, and yeah, sorry, I can't see the book or anybody, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Thank you very much, Bert.
Yeah. And I may have this, if I hit the right button, this will be recorded so you can see us. But those are great questions. And I feel like you will have more confidence to do this program, having kind of been in the seminar today, than maybe picking up this book cold and having to work through all of the details. So who else? Who's the next person with a question? Okay, Gary, back to you.
So from start to finish, from when you buy the book to the end, what time frame are we looking at? 3 months, 6 months?
The actual kind of roll up your sleeves period is 6 weeks. But that assumes you have everything in place ready to go, meaning you've got your team together, your leader has agreed to be there. So from the time the team gets the books, see, everybody's technically not supposed to have the books in advance, maybe just the chair and the leader is 6 weeks. So from the time you meet that person to the time of Consecration Sunday, 6 weeks. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, how are we doing on time? So 11:21. I'll take a couple more questions and then we'll call today a success. How about that?
I have a question.
Amanda, yes.
Yeah, so the 6 team members, what would be your recommendation for those folks? Is it church leaders or laity, or what would you recommend, or what does the book outline?
It should not be a committee to start with. Let's just start there. It shouldn't translate to be your finance committee or your trustees or your council. It should be 6 people who will independently serve on this team for the 6 or 8 weeks, depending on how much prep work you do. So I would get your A team, whoever's on your A team, meaning who are the people in that congregation that really want to see us move forward. I would not put naysayers on this committee. I would put can-do people. And I don't know what your criteria might be, but you know who the can-do people are, and I would invite them to be on the team.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is the one place in the life of the church that we're not recruiting naysayers. We want our forward-moving people. Good. These are great questions, and okay, then. Well, did you get do you have a feel for the program now? Can anybody give me some feedback, what you think you know now compared to when we started just a few minutes ago? Gary, were you going to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's very, very helpful, and obviously critical to wait till May and get that book. But it's kind of giving me a good 30,000 foot view of going forward, what I and other members of the church need to do. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, you're welcome. Okay. Well, does anybody else did this provide any clarity, or let me ask you, how many of you think you might move this forward to your council for this fall? Anybody think they may? Bill, you think you might move it forward? Okay. And Alma, you're thinking about moving this forward to your council? Okay.
I'm trying to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, be very positive. If you need me to get on the call with you, I'll be glad to do it, because I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. And Nick, did you raise your hand? You will move forward. So some of you look like you are. If you have any side questions, just email me or call me. I'm on the United Methodist Church Credit Union website, and you probably got the email from me with the login information anyway. So I'll be glad to help you any way I can. And I see Gary's go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I got something in the email yesterday, the day before, about a stewardship Zoom class, the 23rd, 30th, and 6th. Is that you again, or is that another class?
That's me again. I do something every month in the broad area of stewardship. And Stewardship Academy, well, let me give them a plug for me. was my kind of signature seminar when we first launched this educational ministry. And I thought clergy would be the primary audience for it. So we started offering CEUs, but I find there's an equal number of laity and church administrators who take it. And it really is an overview of the whole stewardship ministry process. Now, what we have done is called an annual campaign, which is an important part, but it's not the whole thing of a stewardship ministry. So that's what that is. It's over 3 Wednesdays, and you got the topics in the email. And that has been well received, especially in this COVID environment, because we do it Zoom, and and clergy need CEUs from somewhere. So it's been a good place to do it. So yeah, if you can, as a matter of fact, I was just looking at it. We've got about 18 sign up for that already. I was just looking at that before the class started. So it's no cap on that class. If you can take it, I'd love to have you. Yeah. Then I might give another plug. Coming up, I'm going to do a basic church finance. I'm also going to do, is it time for a capital campaign in my church? I'm going to do the narrative budget, all these before the end of the year. So just when you see these United Methodist Credit Union emails, a lot of times they're from me announcing a new class. So,
Question, where can we find the recording from this session?
I'd have to send it to you. So
Okay.
what I end up doing a lot is I will record it to YouTube, so they become mine personally. So it takes me a day or two to turn this around, but I'll be glad. Anybody that wants it, I'll be glad to give it to you. And it might be useful to show this video to your council if they would sit through it and do it. Okay, that'd be my pleasure to do that. All right, then. If you need me, you can get me offline, and I appreciate your time today. So God bless you, and best of wishes as you do your stewardship ministry in your church. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.